Hello and welcome to my review of the Vacheron Reference 6010T Traditionnelle Tourbillon Retrograde Date Openface. That's not only a very long name for a watch, but it's also quite expensive, clocking in at 250,000 Sing dollars at time of recording. Naturally, that begs the question, is this watch worth the money? Before we start, please do subscribe for weekly watch videos. Enjoy! Vacheron has been releasing some of my favorite watches over the last 3 years, including the likes of the 222 as well as my ultimate grail, the Overseas Perpetual Skeleton. The theme of 2023's VC releases was the retrograde complication, with the brand coming out with a beautiful new Overseas and this stunning Traditionnelle. Vacheron actually has a long history with the retrograde complication, featuring it in amazing watches such as the Mercator or Saltarello Jump Hour. In the case of the 6010, VC combines a retrograde date with what I think is the best looking tourbillon cage out there. This release also builds upon the very underrated traditional complete calendar Openface. As far as looks go, VC has nailed it with the 6010. The Traditionnelle collection is actually one of my favorite dress watch lines from any brand, and I've owned two, including an older La Mania chronograph, as well as the aforementioned complete calendar skeleton. The Traditionnelle collection is characterized by beautiful dolphin hands and a complex mirror polish case. Looking at the dial of the 6010, everything just comes together well. From the hand guilloche baseplate to the railroad track, all the components combine for a clean, harmonious, and modern look that also has plenty of depth. My favorite details include the off-center logo that can cast a shadow below, as well as the floating hour markers. The tourbillon cage also has one of the nicest designs, with the tasteful use of the Maltese cross motif and a gray screw that operates as a pseudo second hand. Personally, I would prefer the blue screw on the Overseas tourbillons, since I find it much easier to see than the gray screw on the 6010, but oh well. Finishing is impressive, with hand beveling and hand polishing resulting in a bridge that rivals high-end independents like the Bethune. At a glance, the caseback is no less impressive. An awesome peripheral rotor offers an uninterrupted view of the modern NAC-treated caseback. Yet, I will say that the finishing is less than what I would expect of a $250,000 watch. The anglage isn't that great, and you won't find sharp angles like those on a Roman Gaultier, for example. Based on what I've seen, the Overseas Tourbillon skeleton seems to have better finishing than the 6010, but is also more expensive. But all this being said, a watch really is more than just raw finishing. In terms of design and sheer visual pleasure, I'd say that the caseback of the 6010 is definitely up there. I don't have much to say on wearability since I didn't actually put the 6010 on my wrist. However, given that it measures 41mm by 11mm, which is almost identical to my complete calendar, I'm sure it wears great. So to address the clickbait title, is the 6010 really worth $250,000? I'm not really sure if it's my place to answer this because first of all, I'm too poor to afford this watch, and second of all, I'm not super knowledgeable about tourbillons. Functionally and visually, I've always preferred perpetual calendars, and I'm more familiar with that market. But let's give it a go and narrow things down so that it's more of an apples to apples comparison. And for that purpose, we'll be considering tourbillons from other popular high-end brands, including Patek, AP, and Lange. In the case of Patek, I'd say that their tourbillons are pretty much out of the question, since they're not only a lot more complicated, but also more expensive, and the tourbillons tend to only be visible from the back. In the case of AP, a Royal Oak tourbillon would probably require you to bundle a Code 1159 tourbillon, and I'd consider that a fate worse than death. And while we're on the topic of AP, I also do think that the tourbillon finishing is a lot worse than what Vacheron offers. Finally, in the case of Lange, their non-limited edition tourbillons tend to cost more than this, but are also much more boring. To summarize, if you're in the market for a high-end tourbillon, the 6010 is actually quite the appealing prospect. It also comes with an 8-year warranty, which ensures your high complication will be well taken care of. Personally, I'd probably prefer a VC Overseas Skeleton Tourbillon for the price range, but both watches are great. If you like the open dial look of the 6010 but don't want to shell out over $250,000 on a watch, I'd highly recommend checking out the complete calendar Openface. It's not only much cheaper, but wears slightly better and is visually somewhat similar. I'll have a video review out on that watch soon. If there are any other tourbillons that you think should be in the conversation, do let me know in the comments. I didn't include the likes of IWC, JLC, or Bulgari, since I think the quality and price is of a slightly different standard. A big thank you to Gail and Sherman for making this video happen. It was great getting to see one of my most anticipated watch releases this year, and you can contact them should you have any inquiries. Also, this is my first time coming on camera for a watch review, so it's a bit rough around the edges. I'll look to improve things going forwards. Thank you for watching.